Hi guys, this is my book bibliography, and then the author that I chose was Meg Medina. She is of Cuban descent, and her books also celebrated Latino culture and lives of young people. So the first book I chose was Evelyn Del Rey's Moving Away. This is about two best friends who are navigating the change of Evelyn moving away, and they are still placing value and importance on their friendship. It's a translanguaging text, and I gave it a 30 out of 32 because as a translanguaging text, I would have just liked to have seen some more Spanish words in there. Here's a part of the book if you want to pause and just see it. The next book I have is Tia Isa Wants a Car. This book is about an aunt who wants a car but doesn't have enough money, so her niece finds different ways to make money to help her aunt buy the car that's big enough to hold their family. This is a great book because it has a repetitive phrase in it. It's also a translanguaging text. I gave it a 28 out of 32 because my students may not relate to helping their aunts buy cars, and also the main character is not close in age to any of my students. And here is part of the book if you want to pause and see that as well. The last book by Meg Medina is Mango, Abuela, and Me. This is about a little girl's grandma who comes to stay with them. They grow a stronger bond because they have a language barrier, so they're teaching each other words in their own language. It's a translanguaging text, and I gave it a 31 out of 32 because my students could definitely have this type of experience of having a language barrier with someone in their family or someone else. There's a great amount of Spanish in the text, and also the main character is close in age with my students. Here's a scene from the book if you want to pause and look. The illustrator I chose was Gigi Morales. She was born in Mexico. She primarily focuses on children's fantasy, and she has gotten multiple awards. The first book I chose was Dreamers. This is a story of a mom and her baby who are immigrating to the U.S. and cannot understand English. It is a translanguaging text, and Gigi actually relates to the text. Many of the scenes has actually happened to her when she first immigrated. I gave it a 29 out of 32 because the characters are not close in age to my students, but it's also a great book because it focuses on immigration, and many of my students could relate to that. Here's a part of the book if you want to pause and look. The next illustration book by her is Niño Wrestles the World. This is a story of a boy who wrestles with imaginary monsters, and also includes imagination and play. It's a translanguaging text. I gave it a 28 out of 32 just because I would like to have seen more Spanish words in it as a translanguaging text, and there wasn't much cultural representation. It mainly just focused on a boy who fights imaginary monsters, but I think that's great because my students can also relate to imagination and play. Here's part of the book if you want to pause and look as well. The last book that was illustrated by her is Just a Minute. This is where Senor Calavera comes to Grandma Beetle's door and asks her to leave with him. And there's a repetitive phrase of her saying just a minute, which is great. And she basically just delays leaving with him. It's a counting book in English and Spanish. It's a translanguaging text. And I gave it a 25 out of 32. Although there was some repetition, I gave points off because no student would really have an experience like this. And only the grandchildren were close in age, and I would have liked to have seen more Spanish words. And here's a part of the book if you want to pause and see. So the awards I have is the Arab American Award, which honors outstanding books written by or about Arab Americans, and the American Indian Youth Literature Award, which is awarded to best writings and illustrations for youth by and about Native American and Indigenous people of North America. For the Arab American Award, I chose I Was Their American Dream by Malaka Gharib. She was the 2020 winner. It's a graphic novel about a girl's journey through her identity and culture, and she also sheds light on immigrants and the children that they raise. She is a Filipino and Muslim American, and also she has an interfaith family. Her mom's Catholic, her dad's Muslim, and it portrays growing up in America as a biracial child, and also explores what diversity means. I gave it a 20 out of 32 because she would be older than most of my students, and I would have liked some more bilingual text. For the American Indian Youth Literature Award, I chose Fry Bread, which was the 2020 winner. It focused on the flat dough bread that is traditional to the Navajo Native American people. The story understood the diversity and unity of Native American and Indigenous people in the past and present, and I gave it 24 out of 32 because many of my students might not visit some of these places, and they might not speak some of the same languages of Native Americans. So the book that I chose for an EB student would be Mommy's Kimar. It's about a young girl who plays dress up with her mother's Kimar and feels her mother through it. It also includes interfaith families and a Muslim American life. It focuses on diversity and a welcoming community. And I gave it a 31 out of 32, and there was some translanguaging. I just would have liked some more. Here's part of the book. And the last one I chose was My Two Border Towns. It's a story of a father and a son's weekend ritual of running errands and displaying community care around the US-Mexico border. They visit places on the other side, and it also focuses on community, diversity, and it's also a great translanguaging text. There was a lot of Spanish words in it. And I gave it a 30 out of 32. And yeah, thank you for listening to my presentation.